His name is Tony. He has $650 million. Nobody in this room knows. The guy standing across from him right now is wearing a t-shirt that costs $340. Tony looked it up once someone mentioned the brand. He drives a matte grey Range Rover, custom wrap, the kind of car that announces itself before he does. He's talking about his portfolio the way some people talk about their personality. Loudly. In the direction of whoever might be listening. Tony drove here in a 2019 Honda Pilot. 91,000 miles. Crack in the rear bumper he's been meaning to fix for 8 months. When the 340 shirt guy asks what Tony does, Tony says he owns a few small businesses. Laundromats, mostly. Some other stuff. Watch the math happen in real time. The car, the fleece, the laundromats. A small smile, a slight turn towards someone else. Filed away, mid-level, comfortable, not worth the full pitch. Tony watches this and feels something that isn't quite satisfaction and isn't quite amusement. Quieter than both. The moment that man stopped watching him, that was the moment Tony could do exactly what he wanted. This isn't a story about a number. It's about the 11 years that built it. The decisions nobody photographed. The assets nobody envied. The Tuesday afternoons nobody else was paying attention to. Tony's story starts the way a lot of these things start. Not with a plan, not with capital, not with the right introduction at the right dinner. It starts with a broken vending machine. And a question most people wouldn't spend 40 minutes trying to answer. Maybe you know that feeling. The moment you stop being a customer and start wondering who's actually on the other side of the thing. When the ownership layer underneath something ordinary just becomes visible to you and you can't unsee it. Tony's version of that moment happened on a Tuesday afternoon, and somewhere in this story, it becomes yours. Somewhere between the end of your shift and the parking garage elevator, you notice the machine is out of water and the one next to it is jammed. Most people walk past it annoyed. You stop. One question: who actually owns this thing? You go home and find out. 40 minutes of searching, 40 minutes longer than anyone else in the hallway would have bothered. What you find is a name, a small operator. A guy running maybe a dozen machines across 3 buildings, pulling in somewhere between $40 and $120 a month per machine. After product cost and location fees. Not interesting. Not glamorous. Just a number sitting on a screen while the apartment is quiet. But you do the math. 5 machines in decent locations, $400 a month whether you show up or not. 10 machines, $800. 25 machines, right locations, run tight, somewhere between $200 and $3,000 coming in while you sleep. The money isn't the point yet. What gets you is the structure. The machine doesn't need you. It just sits there in a hallway solving a small problem for a rotating cast of strangers. And every single time it does that, it pays you. That's a different kind of thing. You spend $900 on your first machine, used, a little beat up on one side. You place it in the lobby of a mid-sized dental office, percentage of revenue handshake agreement. First month it clears $280 gross. After product, after the location cut, after driving out there twice to restock, you net $190. $190. Your coworker made more than that last weekend on one overtime shift. Your cousin just got a signing bonus that would cover this machine for the next 4 years. Nobody congratulates you. Nobody even knows. You sit with the number on a Thursday night. It isn't pride. It isn't disappointment. Something quieter than both. But you don't quit, because you're not looking at the $190. You're looking at what the $190 proves. So you place a second machine. Then a third. And somewhere in there, you start looking at coin laundromats differently. Not as a customer, as someone trying to figure out who owns the thing. A small laundromat, 15 machines in a strip mall off a state route, can pull anywhere from $60,000 to over $200,000 a year. The ones that fail usually fail for operational reasons, not market ones. People always need to wash their clothes. That doesn't change in a recession. Doesn't change when the market drops 18%. It just keeps going. Load after load, quarter after quarter. You buy your first laundromat for $47,000. Working class neighborhood in Ohio. Machines are older, but they run. Lease has 6 years left. The previous owner is a retired postal worker named Dale. He ran the whole thing out of a flip phone and a spiral notebook. The books are a mess. Underneath the mess, the cash flow is real. First year nets $38,000. You don't celebrate. You use it as a down payment on the next one. Your accountant's name is Karen. 19 years doing books for small business owners. Sloppy LLCs, restaurant owners with receipts in a shoebox, people who thought revenue and profit meant the same thing. She does not impress easily. She sits across from you at a folding table in the back office of your third laundromat. You hand her a folder. She reads it slowly. Doesn't say anything for a while. Then she looks up. This is the most deliberately uninteresting portfolio I have ever seen. She means it as a criticism. You take it as the best thing anyone has ever said to you. Here's what's in the folder. 4 coin laundromats across 2 Midwestern states. Not 4 rows on a spreadsheet. 4 Tuesday mornings checking machines. 4 lease agreements signed in offices where nobody knew your name. 4 buildings full of strangers doing something they'd need to do no matter what was happening in the economy. Combined gross is roughly $290,000 a year. Net, after utilities, repairs, and part-time help, is around $110,000. Comes in every month like rent. Because essentially that's what it is. 2 municipal parking lots bought through county tax auctions. The kind held on Tuesday mornings in government buildings where almost nobody bothers to show up. You were the only person in the room under 60 years old when you bought the first one. The man next to you asked where you'd heard about it. You told him it was on the county website. He nodded slowly, like that explained something he hadn't expected. $31,000 for the first lot, $44,500 for the second. Together they net just over $58,000 a year. You have a part-time operator. A deposit hits the account every month. That's about the full extent of your involvement. 3 highway billboards in Tennessee and Kentucky. You don't own what's on them. You own the ground they're standing on. Advertising companies lease that ground from you, 5 to 15-year contracts, annual escalations built in, between $800 and $1,100 a month per billboard. Some months you genuinely forget these exist. Then the money shows up. And then the cleaning company. You bought it from a man named Frank who spent 31 years building something that by the end barely needed him. 12 contracted clients. Office buildings, a medical clinic, 2 school districts. Annual revenue just over $1.1 million. Margins thin, but the clients don't leave fast and they don't get replaced fast, and none of it ever makes the news. Karen asks if you're thinking about moving into something with more growth potential. Tech, maybe. Some multifamily real estate. Something with upside. You say no. She nods like she already knew that was coming and still doesn't quite understand it. What she's not seeing is the one thing all of this has in common. Every asset in that folder serves a need that doesn't negotiate. Not with a downturn. Not when rates spike. Not when some platform changes the way people work or shop or communicate. People park their cars. Buildings get dirty every day. Someone has to clean them. And drivers on a highway see whatever is on that billboard, whether they chose to or not. There is no app coming for any of this. There is no competitor who is going to out-innovate a parking lot. The flashy guys are playing a different game. One where being interesting is the price of admission, where one bad quarter can unravel 3 years, where the attention is always on and always required. You are not in that game. You are in the Tuesday morning game. The one nobody watches. The one that just keeps running long after the interesting thing down the street has closed. Back at the networking event, the 340 shirt guy is deep in conversation with someone who has a startup. Animated. Leaning in. Performing for a room that may or may not be watching. You get a glass of water, say hello to 2 people you actually came to see, and leave at 8:15. The Honda is not a statement. It's a tool. It starts every morning, handles highway miles without complaint, and draws exactly 0 attention in any parking lot in America. The average new car transaction right now is close to $48,000. Average monthly payment, around $735. You paid cash for the Pilot 4 years ago. Since then, gas and oil changes. Every dollar not going toward a car note is going somewhere else. The house is the same thinking. 3-bedroom colonial, quiet suburb, bought it 11 years ago. Mortgage has been paid off for 2 years. The neighbors think you're a small business owner who does fine. They're not wrong. They just don't know the whole number. What you've learned, gradually, and then all at once, is that visibility costs things money can't fix. Once people know what you have, they stop seeing you. A cousin you haven't spoken to in 4 years finds a reason to call. Someone at church has been sitting on a business idea. Your brother-in-law mentions a real estate deal that just needs a little seed capital. None of these people are bad. Most of them don't even realize what they're doing. It's just what money does to a room when it becomes visible. So you keep the room quiet. Your best friend from college is named Marcus. 6 years of Sunday basketball. He was at your mother's funeral. The kind of person who calls on a random Wednesday for no reason, no ask, no agenda. Just calling. 3 months ago, he called on a Wednesday. And this time there was something underneath it. He'd been running a food truck for 2 years. Real following. The kind of thing that gets written up in a local paper and has a line at lunch. He wanted to expand a brick and mortar on a corner near downtown he'd been watching for a while. Numbers made sense. He needed $85,000. You could have sent that before the call ended. From your phone, sitting in the parking lot of a laundromat, without it registering in any way that mattered. $85,000 is roughly 11 days of passive income across your portfolio. It is not a sacrifice. It is barely a decision. You didn't send it. You sat there with the phone against your ear and felt the full weight of knowing exactly what you could do and choosing not to. That feeling doesn't have a clean name. It isn't guilt. It isn't selfishness. It's the specific loneliness of understanding a situation more clearly than the person you love who is living it. Because here's what you've learned, slowly and at some cost. Money handed to someone who isn't structurally ready doesn't solve the problem. It accelerates whatever is already there. If the operations are loose, capital makes them looser. If the owner doesn't yet understand the difference between revenue and margin, or the way a lease can quietly strangle a business that looks healthy on the surface, then you're just buying them a faster, more expensive version of the same lesson they were heading toward anyway. And then the money is gone. And often something in the friendship goes with it, so instead of sending the money, you asked if you could come by Saturday morning. You sat at his kitchen table with a notepad for 3 hours, found 2 line items bleeding him quietly, asked about the lease terms, escalation clauses, the personal guarantee. What happens in month 18 if foot traffic runs 30% light? He didn't know the answers. Not because he wasn't smart, because nobody had ever worked through those questions with him before. You went back the next Saturday, and the one after that. By the 4th Saturday, Marcus had renegotiated 2 vendor contracts, found an SBA loan program he qualified for, and restructured his timeline so it didn't need outside money. City grant plus SBA covered it. He signed the lease 6 weeks later. Called you that night. Was crying a little, the way you do when something you worked for finally shows up. He said he couldn't have done it without you. You didn't tell him what you could have written the check for. You won't. Because the story Marcus gets to tell himself, I built this. That's the thing you actually gave him. A check would have bought him the location. It would have taken away the one part that actually matters. But there are rooms in your life nobody walks into. That part doesn't get easier. Not the secrecy. You've made peace with that. It's the specific weight of sitting across a kitchen table from someone you've known for 20 years, watching them fight through something you could end in 60 seconds, knowing that ending it would be the wrong call. Knowing it completely. Every Saturday, the email comes in on a Thursday, 7:12 in the morning. You're standing in the plumbing aisle of a Home Depot, not because you had to be, but because one of the laundromats has a utility sink with a slow drain, and the property manager sent a photo, and you were already out. So you stopped, drain cleaner in one hand, phone in the other, trying to remember whether the pipe under that sink is PVC or galvanized because it matters which product you use. That's what you're thinking about when the notification comes in. Subject: Q2 Portfolio Summary Final. Karen. You almost put the phone back in your pocket. But the number in the preview stops you. You set the drain cleaner down, open the email, read the summary line twice, the way you reread something when you're not sure you read it right the first time. Your total verified net worth, real property, business equity, liquid holdings, portfolio assets, has crossed $650 million. You stand there, fluorescent lights, a forklift somewhere near the back of the store, slow beep as it reverses. A man in a grey hoodie 2 feet away, comparing prices on copper fittings. Nobody is looking at you, nobody knows. The store doesn't know, the forklift doesn't know. The number lives in an email on a phone in a hand, attached to a person who is holding drain cleaner and trying to remember what kind of pipe is under a sink in a laundromat in Ohio. You reply to Karen, "Thanks. Looks right." You pick up the drain cleaner, photograph the label for the property manager, and walk to checkout. $8.47. You don't use a rewards card because you can never remember if you have one. In the car, you sit for a minute before turning the key. 11 years ago, you netted $190 from a used vending machine in the lobby of a dental office, and sat with that number on a Thursday night not knowing what to call what you were feeling. Wasn't pride, wasn't disappointment, something quieter than both. Wasn't enough to tell anyone about. This is that same feeling, exactly the same, just with more zeros. Which might be the whole thing. Because if the feeling doesn't change, if arriving at $650 million feels identical to arriving at $190, then the feeling was never tracking the number. It was tracking something else. The fact that the thing you built is running the way you built it to run, quietly, without anyone watching, without anyone in the plumbing aisle having any idea. At the networking event, the guy in the $340 shirt needed the room to know. You stop needing that, you're not sure exactly when. But at some point, being overlooked stopped feeling like a cost and started feeling like space. Room to move, room to build things nobody's watching. That's not wisdom. It's just what happened and what kept happening. You start the engine, same road, same pilot, same crack in the bumper. Somewhere this week you're going to watch someone spend money to look like they have it. And you're going to see the gap, the one between performing wealth and actually building it, between the signal and the structure. Once you can see that gap clearly, you start seeing it everywhere. What you do with it is up to you. If this story landed somewhere, if it put words on something you'd been thinking about but hadn't said out loud yet, there's more. It's already there.